All right, we're going live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Saints Happy Hour podcast featuring Dave Cariello, Andrew Juge, Ralph Malbrough, and when he decides to show up, Kevin Held. We are the perfect blend of Saint sincerity and stupidity.
Coming up next, we'll talk with our football expert. Well, that's what he calls himself. From WWLTV.com sports column.
And now, here's your host, Ralph Malbrough.
All right, everybody, welcome to the misery that is the Saints Happy Hour podcast. We're all going to have a group hug. We're going to laugh. We're going to cry. We're going to get drunk. We may even start a couple fights. Saints
I don't even
seasons.
know how you could open the show with such energy and enthusiasm, Ralph. I really don't even know how you do it.
Fake it till you make it, Dave. It's my motto in life, of all things.
Well, we definitely haven't made it.
So I got to keep faking it. So here's the thing. You know, I was thinking about this playoff game, and it's terrible when we get to all the details. But I was thinking about the main thing that made me the saddest, and it's this, is that when Taysom Hill, Dave, when he busted out that 28-yard run and he got down to the Saints 20, and the Saints had gone full Taysom Hill, and he was going to fucking save the Saints. The analytics nerds were losing their minds on Twitter, and they were just defeated. And I was like, Taysom Hill is going to save the Saints. They're going to score. They're going to go up. Cousins is going to do Cousins-type activities, which is a pick. We're going to laugh about this. I'm going to make a Taysom Hill jersey. Me and Eric Polson are going to laugh like schoolgirls because we both love Taysom Hill. We're going to make out through Skype Monday morning. This is going to be great, and it just didn't happen. And that, I think, is the reason why I'm so sad today, right now.
Well, yeah, I definitely agree with you as far as Taysom Hill. Let's be honest, he was more elusive than Kamara was today. I felt like, he could not be brought down with one tackle, two tackles. I think out of the four of us here on the podcast tonight, I think I was the only one that was actually at the game. And first of all, I got to say, I think that fans could have been louder. I think now that we had the NFC Championship game last year, I think that was probably the loudest I've ever heard the Superdome, the NFC Championship game against the Rams. And we were not only loud when we needed to be loud, but we were loud early. We were loud while they were in the huddle. And I thought that some of that was going to carry over into this game. And I did not feel like we were as loud as we could have been. I'm not saying that changes the outcome of the game, but that was something that I noticed.
Ralph, can you play the breaking news siren real quick? I have news to break just now.
Yeah.
Alvin Kamara just caught the pass and fell short of the first down again.
Oh my goodness! It is gonna be an off season of should we?
He went out of bounds gingerly, a yard short of the first down.
Kevin.
Spin zone. That means we don't need to pay him a whole bunch of money now to keep him.
No, we don't. We'll trade him to Ryan Pace. We'll fleece the Bears. Kevin, I was enraged by Stephon Diggs doing the Choppa style and taunting Sean Payton. The reason why I was enraged...
is Kevin, installing pipes?
Yeah, Jesus.
Close. I just activated my dishwasher.
Is it possible for you to take care of your household chores before we go live on this fucking podcast? Just once, can you take care of all your household duties and then just sit down and relax and focus on us?
Well, the funny thing is
the wrong week. Quit sniffing glue.
The funny thing is that when the podcast starts, that's when I get reminded, oh yeah, like if I didn't start the dishwasher, now I might forget to actually start it. So I would,
kind of like how you forgot to watch the Saints game.
Right.
But Kevin,
I'm finding very little funny about that.
here's the thing. I was enraged that Stephon Diggs is doing the choppa style to taunt Sean Payton, and
Yeah.
he didn't do dick the whole game. Like, you, dude, if the Vikings would have lost, they might have not taken you on the plane ride home. He was yelling at people, throwing his helmet. That
He didn't
enraged
even
me.
get
It could have
shut
been,
down by Lattimore. He got shut down by Janoris Jenkins.
yeah. Like,
They had Janoris Jenkins on him, and the Vikings still kept throwing to Thielen.
I hate the Vikings so much. Kevin, are the Vikings now the most hated Saints team? I feel like they are. They gotta be. Non-Atlanta variety, of course.
Well, hang on a minute, man. You can't make fucking exceptions like that. It's either are they the most hated or aren't they? Do you hate them more than the Falcons or not?
I think I might because the Falcons, they're a disaster. They're gonna stay a disaster for the foreseeable future until they get rid of Quinn and Mitrov. I think right now the Vikings are number one for me.
Okay.
You know.
Recency
What about you
bias.
guys?
I mean, if I can't be recency bias when I'm drunk and angry and sad, when can I have recency bias? You gotta bathe. You gotta just bask in it, right? Um. So let's talk about Kamara because Andrew, you were talking about him before the show, and you were you were and lay out your theory of him.
Well,
'Cause it
I
was
just
interesting.
wonder. I mean, I wondered out loud. You know, I don't. Obviously, I'm on fumes. You know, the game just took a lot out of me, and I've been trying to move on and not think about it since. So, you know, I'm
Oh,
kind of
before you
revisiting
talk
it.
about Kamara, talk about your son becoming a real Saints fan today.
Oh yeah, well, you know, for the first time, he's 9 years old. For the first time, he kind of dropped after the game some self-loathing comments like, yeah, I think he said, "I hate my life," which is I was probably about 9 years old, and it was after a Saints game that I said that for the first time. So it kind of reminded me of myself. But
Is
he
today
said
the
that,
worst
and
day of
then
your life? Yeah.
he said, you know, it really just sucks being a Saints fan. And you know, I thought about throwing in his face, well, you didn't know when it was really bad, son. But you know, I just let him. I kind of backed off, let him deal with it in his own way, and you know, get it out. But yeah, he was upset. He was
At
very
that
Good.
moment,
upset.
you should have had a Fleur de Lis brand ready to go, white hot, and just
Yeah,
poked them with it and been like, "Son,
you
now
ever
you have arrived, and you are
I
a
mean, here's the thing, though.
member
Like,
of
you look
Saints
at the
Nation."
60s and 70s, you know, when the Saints didn't win games, like our parents, you know, that watched the Saints and they were terrible back then. Or if you look at Ralph, you and I, and Kevin, who grew up like rooting for a team that never won a playoff game, like they were good in the regular season, but they could never win a playoff game. Like, and now my son, like at 7, 8, and 9 years old, he's now experienced these three playoff exits. I'm honestly not sure which is worse.
Ooh, that's a good
And
self-loathing,
he
horrible.
wasn't even alive for the Super Bowl win.
No. Well, he had a heartbeat, but he was in his mama's belly.
So that's a good question, though. Are these three successive, horrible, crushing, soul questioning defeats? Are they as painful as the first 20 years, or let's say, are they as
I think it's
painful?
worse. I think he has been subjected to more pain and suffering at 7, 8, 9 years old than any Saints fan at 7, 8, 9 ever.
Kevin, that's a good question. Do you think, because you're like me, you have the whole New Orleans born there experience, so you have the whole record of the Saints being terrible for long stretches in your past.
Yeah.
Are these three straight playoff exits as painful as any of the horrible stretches that you've endured?
I don't know, man. I feel like kids bounce back from shit like this.
Yeah, but
Like,
he did.
That's true.
he's not gonna forget it. I mean, he'll probably remember, be like, oh yeah, the Saints. It was kind of like, yeah, it was real sucky. But like, if the Saints are bad when he's an adolescent, that's the shit that'll mar him forever.
I don't know, man. And because the thing is, like, I have the luxury of knowing what it's like to go through 3-13. So I have that perspective, and like this is awful in its own way, but I've been through like week after week where you just know you're going to lose, and it's just like, how are they going to look terrible again this week? And like, you're not as maybe you're not opening yourself up to as much disappointment, but it still blows. And I've
No,
experienced that.
what I'm saying,
He's never been through that. Like, he doesn't know what that feels like. He just
right,
knows, like, hoping for a Super Bowl title and then having your soul crushed.
Yeah.
And
right. What I'm
in some
saying
ways,
is that
that's why. In some ways, I feel like that's worse.
Yeah.
what I'm saying is there will come a day where the Saints are going to regress to the mean,
Mm-hmm.
and if he is like in those like formative teenage years, uh, that'll fuck with him more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
I'm.
about that.
I don't know. I mean, is it worse to be Buffalo the last 25 years and not win a playoff game and barely been competent? Is that more painful than losing a walk-off playoff game 3 straight years? I don't know. It's
Yeah,
it,
that's the thing. That's the thing, Ralph. Like, it's not losing 27-14. It's not losing the way the Eagles did, where their quarterback goes down to the Seahawks today. It's like the Seahawks. Yeah, they've had some tough losses. That Super Bowl loss, the Malcolm Butler thing was terrible, but like, they haven't. But it's not like they suffered 3 years in a row of that. The Saints, 3 years in a row. I mean, this to me, of the last 3 years, was the easiest. Like, as horrible as today was, I felt like of the last 3 years, this was the most. This was the easiest to stomach of the three, which is really saying something. But I mean, if you aggregate these three playoff exits, I mean, I can't imagine there's anything worse.
I can't. I was trying to think of a comparable NFL team. The only team I can come up with is the 86-87 Browns, who lost on the drive to John Elway, and then they lost on the fumble. Like, but they didn't have a third, you know? Um, or they might have actually got to an AFC championship again the third year in a row, but they got housed. But
Well, that's
back to
funny.
your.
I wanted to add to this. It's funny that you're talking about your son, because I took my son to this game.
Yeah, how do you take it? He's
and
8, right?
He's 7. He'll be 8 in April.
How do you take
And
it?
and well, he's come to some games. He's come to some regular seasons games, and he's been to some pretty wild games. I think I took him to the Redskins game that maybe went into overtime, or we won at the last minute. I took him to the Panthers game last season that we went into overtime and won with a field goal. And I took him to this game because really thought the Saints were going to win. And it was going to be a playoff atmosphere, and I just thought it would be a little more electric, and it would be way more memorable for him. And
it's going to be memorable. All right.
and I was really excited because this was like the first time where he's really been into it. Previously, when I brought him to games, he just wants cotton candy and whatever, and he's there just for the snacks. And this time,
Did you get him Dippin' Dots?
I did get him. That was the first thing I got him. That's always top of the list. And actually, funny thing is, it's not Dippin' Dots. It's like an off-brand. I didn't even realize that. But anyway, so he was like really into it. He was really following it, and he was really cheering on defense. And he was on the big screen waving the towel. And I was like, oh, this is the first, like, okay, he's getting it. He's, because previously he went the total opposite way. And every time I would talk about the Saints, he'd be like, who cares? Who cares about the Saints? The Saints are stupid. And I'm like, are you my son? So it was nice to see that he's finally, I think, flipped the switch and turned the corner, and he's really into it. And then, of course, now he's gotten the real. I wanted them to win so that he'd have this crazy memorable experience, especially if they were able to pull it out like they did, where they were losing most of the game, and win it with a last second field goal in overtime or something like that. but he took it just fine. He took it totally fine, and I tried to, I tried to not be totally distraught, and eh, I wanted to lead by example.
You
Ice
held it all
off
inside.
off-brand
Course,
Dippin'
so
Dots. Is that just like frozen ice that they scrape off the bottom of
I
a
think it's
freezer
called. I think
and
I
put in
think
a
it's called
cup?
min. I think it's called mini melts.
Mini Melt.
What?
I think that's what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah, they have that at the
My section in the Superdome has real Dippin' Dots.
because you are with the hoity-toity 1%, huge. That's why that is. Um, but back to the we got off track because I wanted Andrew to tell the story about his son. Uh, Back to Alvin Kamara, in a sense of you had a theory, Andrew, that it was one of the main undoings of this Saints season. Explain it. I liked it.
Say again.
The Alvin Kamara, your theory about him, how he was one of the main undoings for the Saints season.
Oh, right, right. So I just feel like Kamara, after he got injured, when he came back, he was never himself. And he always just seemed afraid to get hit. And the 2 games that he was out, Latavius Murray was awesome. I know Dave is loving every second of this that I'm saying.
I
because
am,
he
it's the same thing as the Nick Fairley thing. Like I'm relishing in the fact that hey, I was
yeah.
right, but I'm the opposite in the fact that I'm the one that suffers because I lost Nick Fairley as a defensive lineman, and I lost the fucking playoff game because my coach can't fucking see the goddamn light of day when it comes to his
Well,
rookie
but I
year.
think we all were hoping that we know that Kamara, when he's at his
Even the guy that
best,
sits in front of me, he turns around every fucking game. He turns around to me and he says, well, I don't understand. Why aren't they giving him more to Latavius Murray? And I'm like, I don't know, my man. You were preaching to the fucking choir. And I keep calling him Latavius Murray. It's gotten, I'm not even
But
trying to meaning to do it.
but here's the
And
thing:
he just-
what was the final 2 games, Kevin, sort of the worst thing that happened because it gave Sean Payton just a taste, and us too, of like old Kamara. So we're like, he's fine. We look what he did against Tennessee. Look what he did against Carolina. He's back, baby. And that was the worst thing that could have happened. The Saints would have been better off if he just stayed not the same guy, and Sean Payton would have believed in him.
Wait, what do you mean? You're saying if he would have just been average, the same that he'd been all season?
Yeah,
Sean
like
Payton,
if he doesn't rip off the long run against Tennessee and he doesn't rip off the nice run against Carolina, like then that means he's been awful basically since the Seattle game. The Saints, maybe Sean Payton is like, you're not any good. Like I can't count on you in this playoff game, and he's not giving him the ball as much.
right? I mean, maybe he goes to Latavius Murray more. Maybe he just schemes up some different shit. Yeah, I mean, that's possible, but fuck it. The team was, man, the team was fighting for the possibility of getting a second seed in the playoffs. So
Good God,
I'm
8
not going to worry about. I'm not worrying about shit that happened in the regular season like that. I'm just not.
catches for 34 yards. Good. I mean, that's abominable.
man, I feel like every time he catches the ball, he's short of the sticks.
You know,
Every single time.
here's the thing, and we can go around the horn, but I'm gonna, and you guys can tell me if I'm nuts, and you can shoot me down, but I'm gonna do this prediction right now. The Saints are going to decide not to pay Alvin Kamara the 12, $13 million that he's going to want and the market would bear for him. They're going to decide not to pay him. Alvin Kamara is not going to just play out the final year of his contract. He's either going to be pay me or I'm holding out in the summer, and the Saints will know that. So I'm going to predict to you the Saints are going to drop a trade bomb on us sometime in the offseason via Jay Glazer that the Saints have traded Alvin Kamara for a second and a fourth, and Saints Twitter is going to freak the fuck out about it.
What about Lattimore?
Lattimore is more difficult because he's got 2 years left.
Look, as far as Kamara is concerned, I think that's a pretty damn good idea, to be honest with you, Ralph. And that actually wouldn't surprise me at all. And I only say that because I'm assuming Sean Payton thinks like I'm thinking, and he's thinking he's. Look, as a fan, obviously the nostalgia of Alvin Kamara and all the fun times we've had, and the Mark Ingram Kamara show and all that. But I mean, at the end of the day, when you're talking about a football team, uh, Peyton has always been able to find, with the exception maybe of C.J. Spiller, he has always been able to find that that type of running back, whether it's drafting
Traverse
him.
Cadet.
Look, whether it's through the draft or whether it's free agency, for the most part, he's been able to always find a guy to fill that role and do it pretty darn well. And so I don't think that's the worst idea.
Kevin, would you be mad, angry, shocked if the Saints shipped out Alvin Kamara like they did Jimmy Graham?
I'd probably be shocked.
Really?
Surprised. Surprised would be. I don't know.
Because I mean, they did it to Sproles, they did it to Bush, they did it to Jimmy Graham, they did it to Brandon Cooks.
Yeah,
More draft picks for you, Kevin. Though that could be exciting.
Well, okay. If the deal is, if
And
they
then you could trade down
no,
with those
hang
draft
on a
picks
second.
and get more draft
Hang
picks.
on a second.
They're
If
never
they actually
trading down
traded
ever.
him, if they actually traded him and got a bunch of draft picks for it, I think I would be surprised by that. I would be surprised by that because that doesn't strike me as something that the Saints. I don't know.
I think if you offered Kevin a first-round pick or 3 fourth-round picks, and he could choose between the two, I think he'd pick the 3 players.
Make it 3/3. 3 third-round picks, and you can have Alvin Kamara.
The Saints haven't even been eliminated for 24 hours, and we're already into the Kevin held give me draft picks off season. Good times, good times.
But no, anyway, so let me finish my point, though. I think
Let's talk about the draft till this fucking Super Bowl's over.
Well, I agree with Ralph that I think in some ways Sean Payton wanted Alvin Kamara to get back to himself, and he needed that to be successful in the playoffs. Like, to win a Super Bowl, they really needed. Like, I don't think Latavius Murray is carrying this team to a Super Bowl. That's the thing. Like, I think they really needed Kamara to be Kamara for this playoff run, especially if they were going to go on the road and do something special. So, I think it was wishful thinking, but I think it backfired in the sense that he never really got back to that level. And I don't know that they would have gotten further than like at Green Bay, or maybe they would have gotten to San Francisco, but I just don't think they would have won a Super Bowl with Latavius Murray. But I do think they would have won this game if they had leaned on him more.
Well, that's an interesting point then. Like, if they need, if you feel like Sean Payton believes they need Kamara to be special to win a Super Bowl, then I think my trade prediction isn't as sharp, because then Sean Payton will just be like, you'll get healthy, and we'll trade you out. But we'll see. I mean, I don't know. They sort of made a decision on Brandon Cooks because of, they said that it was he complained about things, but really the Saints were like, we have Michael Thomas now, we're not paying you. And that was the thing. I don't know that, Dave, that they've been able to find other backs, but they've never been able to find somebody like Kamara was in 2017, 2018, and 2019, the first 2 weeks when he was healthy. So
Darren Sproles broke the all-time yards from.
It's true. It's true.
I mean, whatever total yardage record. 2011.
They could swap Kamara and they could get Boston Scott back from the Eagles. Straight up trade.
I mean, what I'm saying is I don't, I'm not some college draft guru, but if anybody if there is a guy out there in this draft class who fits that mold, uh, I could very much see Payton going after him.
Well, we got plenty of time to study that.
Me
We're
too.
not gonna. Let's not talk about it till after the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Andrew, the one thing that I got, as you watch these games, sort of, especially a game like today, you ebb and flow, and but I really was concerned, and I knew that the Saints offense, not that they were fucked, but that like they weren't gonna score 35 and it wasn't gonna be a boat race, and that was out the window. That sort of happened to me in the third series when Minnesota was, instead of playing their two ends out wide, they were just like, we're just gonna put them in the middle, Hunter and Griffin, and we're just gonna crush the middle of your line, Saints, and it's not going to matter that we barely have enough corners to dress in this game because those two dudes are going to wreck your interior and grind your game plan to a halt. And it worked for 3 quarters. So the Saints offensive line, which people say it's great, it's a strength, it's Armstead, it's Ramczyk, it's so good. For the second year in a row, Andrew, it's failed them in the playoffs. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, Andres Pete, he just didn't have it, man. Now, Ramczyk gave up a sack. I don't think Armstead played well. So there's plenty of blame to go around. I mean, I don't mean to just kind of pick on Pete. I think a lot of guys on the line didn't play well, but Pete was by far the worst. And you know, I was texting with you about this earlier today. Like Andres Pete, I don't know that I call him a bust because I think he made a Pro Bowl, right? He made one. And he overall, I think he's had moments with the Saints where he's flashed and looked pretty special. And then there were times where Armstead got hurt and he played left tackle, and to have that versatility to move from guard to tackle and hold up was important to the Saints. So he had his moments, but I kind of feel like he's a Kenny Vaccaro pick. Kenny Vaccaro never saw a second contract with the Saints, so you had him for 5 years. And Vaccaro was picked around 15, and I think Andres Pete was picked around 11, right?
Vaccaro did some touchdown saving shit last night for the Titans, though.
Yeah, but it wasn't with the Saints.
I'll give him that.
Yeah, but yeah, no. So I think as far as the value of the pick for the Saints, and look, Andres Pete could go on to have a great career somewhere else, and he could actually be healthy for that team. They could put him at left tackle, and it could work out. I mean, I still think he could end up being a good player. It's kind of like Akeem Hicks. Like sometimes your luck runs out with the Saints, and they're like, look, we're not giving you. You have great potential. You're a good player, but we're not giving you that second contract because you just never did it for us. And then we're seeing a little bit with Vaccaro. We're seeing it with Akeem Hicks. And Andres Pete could do that too. But I just think I don't see him back with the Saints. And I think this was the final nail in the coffin. I think that decision was probably made before this game. But now I think we all see it crystal clear. What was he drafted, Ralph? Like 12th overall?
Yeah.
And you said it, when you're a guard, if you're going to be picked 12th overall as a guard, you better be a perennial All-Pro.
They didn't draft him as a guard.
I don't know that I call him a bust, but it is an underwhelming pick. The Saints made a mistake on that pick.
They drafted him as a tackle. If you'd have told them right before they turned in the card, if you'd have been like, I'm from the future, Saints, Andres Pete is going to be a disaster on the right side. You're going to have to stick him at left guard. I'm from the future. This is all I can tell you. Goodbye. The Saints would have been like, we can't. They'd have been like, seriously, they'd have been like, we got 2 minutes. We got to pick somebody else in the cloud or whatever the fuck they call it. Because they'd have been like, we can't pick him there because we can't pick a guard in the top 15. Like, we can't do it, And it just, it wasn't a good pick. But Dave, what do you blame today on? If I said to you, pin it on one person.
Oh, jeez.
Who is it? Who deserves? Who must be assessed blame for our pain today?
I mean, I would never really pin it on one person because it's a team sport, and there was a lot of poor play by a lot of people. But I think you could say there are multiple answers to this question, but I would disagree. I think there's one and only answer to this question, and I think and I hate to say it, but I think it's Will Lutz. I mean, I think if he makes that kick, it's
Ooh.
it's 23 to.
Lutz is more disappointing to you than Drew Brees today?
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, only because you're a kicker and you've got one specific job to do, and it sucks, but you're required to do that one job and you're to do it really well. And I mean, you know, the Saints did a good job at the end of at the end of the first half,
Getting him
getting
in
in
there. Yeah.
position.
I mean,
I mean,
I
Drew
disagree.
Brees and
I
Drew Brees
disagree,
was the
and
one to get there. Now, Drew Brees, look, Drew
I
Brees,
disagree.
Drew Brees did not look good. He held on to the ball a little bit too long. He, you know, the he did it twice, and the one time he got lucky because he got tackled as he threw it away, and he was able to get it thrown away. And then the second time he held on to it too long, and he held it in one hand, and he got too loose with the ball, I- and obviously the interception. I didn't think that was a terrible decision. I don't think he saw Harris. Harris was on the other side of the field, and Harris did a great job. I have to give a lot of credit to Harris. He did a great job of closing that gap and coming in all the way from the other side of the field. I don't think Drew ever thought that he was going to make it over there and that he was going to wind up throwing into double coverage. But I just, you have one play. You could look at Will Lutz, and he had one play, one kick, one miss, and that was for points. That was a direct play for points, and it was missed, and that
Yeah.
kept that
Well,
that's
the
the
Lutz
difference
thing is
between going
tough.
into overtime and winning the game.
The Lutz is well, that's the thing. Lutz misses a field goal, and then you look back and you go to overtime. So that those 3 points were really valuable, obviously.
And
But
normally I don't like to say, well, if you kick a field goal, because then there's the whole butterfly effect. Like, well, then
yeah,
what happens the next play? But this was at the end of the half, so there is no butterfly effect. He either makes the kick and the Saints go in the locker room up 3 more points than they were before, or he misses the kick and the Saints go in the locker room without those 3 points. So
yeah,
there's no
that's
butterfly
fair.
effect for that.
That's fair. But my thing is with Breeze, as he's gotten older, we have we've become accustomed to what Breeze is now, which is off the charts, better than ever pre-snap. I mean, he recognizes where
yep.
pressure's coming from. He processes things very fast, and what that results in is getting the ball out quickly to Michael Thomas, getting the ball out quickly to Alvin Kamara, occasionally throwing at the second level, but for the most part, it's a possession passing game. And we've been okay with that. I personally, some Saints fans can't stand that, and they hate it. They hate that he doesn't have the deep ball anymore. He doesn't have the arm strength he used to have. He doesn't push the ball downfield as much as he used to. And I've generally been okay with that because his quarterback rating is as high as it's ever been. His completion percentage is as high as it's ever been, and he's playing really efficient football. So the offense isn't as exciting as it used to be. There's not as many big plays, but they're methodical. They move the chains, and generally speaking, Brees plays at a very high level. So I've accepted that. What I don't accept is when he's careless with the football, because if I've got to suffer through no more explosive plays, and I know Taysom Hill had a couple, but I'm just saying no more explosive plays, no more ability to push the ball down the field, and you're giving the ball to the other team, that's where I draw the line. So, look, it was one game, and Brees played 10 out of, I mean, this is his worst game of the season, and he played, 10, 11 games, and he had one bad one. So, and he had one bad one maybe against Atlanta, but otherwise, he was rock solid all year. So, this isn't like a let's move on from Drew Brees ploy. I'm just calling out that the Saints can't win if he plays like that, because the whole deal now is that he can't push the ball down the field, or that this offense isn't set up to do that. So he has to protect the football. That's it. He cannot turn it over. That's why they went 13-3, because they weren't turning the ball over.
Yeah, I mean, they had 8 turnovers all year. They had 2 today. The turnover, the interception, I was with Dave. It was bad in that it swung. They were up 10-7. If they would have got points before the half, they would have got the ball in the second half. It really could have changed the momentum. But I'm with Dave. He made a poor decision, and it happens. We're just so used to him being
Do you
perfect.
think Taysom Hill hitting a shot deep made Brees feel like he had to? Do you think that was in the back of his mind a little bit?
I
Like, ah,
mean,
man,
no,
Taysom just made that play. I got to make one too. I got to
no.
go
I
get
just
me one.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I just think I think it was like Dave said. I think he thought I can get it. I can either get it again or it won't be an interception. I don't think he thought the Minnesota guy could get there. The play
Why?
that really
I also like I just want to say the deep ball again has not worked all season.
no.
And most of the time, like Drew either can't throw it that far, or it's slightly underthrown or whatever. Like a lot of times it's on Drew, but Ted Ginn, maybe he's lost a step, but that maybe he's more afraid to get hit than he used to be. But like that dude does not fight for the ball. He does not go up and get it. Like, I mean, Ted Ginn is a shell of his former self. He's been that way all year, and the deep
Washed.
ball to
He's
him,
washed.
it just, I mean, look at the numbers. It has not worked.
He's washed. He was super fun in 2017. He was amazing in the playoffs, by the way. Last year he got hurt. He was meh. This year he's completely washed. And the Saints, they were shopping for a wide receiver desperately, and prices got away from them. I mean, there was a reason they were doing it. But the thing is, with of Drew Brees' two mistakes, I thought the fumble was more egregious than the interception in late in that game. Even if he takes that sack,
it
the
was
Saints are
just
still in field goal range. He cannot fumble there, and he just should have said, "They've got me. Go down." Like that to me was
and he normally does that. I felt like he was taking he was a lot more loose
yeah.
today and taking a lot more chances than he normally does take. But yeah, I thought that was very uncharacteristic. I mean, he was very not protective of the football on that play. The other thing I'll say about Drew, and I say this, and I have, you know me, I have seen him play 8 or 9 games in person from field level. Um, it's not so much that I don't feel like Drew can throw the ball down the field. It's that there's not a lot of his balls just seem to hang. There's not a lot of velocity on the passes, especially when you compare somebody like Taysom Hill. But like when he goes deep or deep-ish, when he's going 20, 25, 30, 40 yards out, the balls just seem slow to get there. They just kind of.
He's not throwing that pass that Kirk Cousins did in overtime to Thielen. Brees can't make that throw.
Yeah, totally. He can't.
And I want to go back again. I want to just make sure we qualify our last topic and say that, I don't think any of us blame one player for losing this game. I mean, there was just a shitload of blame to go around. I mean, whether it's Sean Payton and maybe not using Latavius Murray or very bad penalties. You talk about a false start penalty on the fake punt.
Obviously, right?
Obviously, Drew Brees, Will Lutz, most of the defense played like shit. I mean, there's plenty of blame to go around. In fact, I think probably the only person I wouldn't blame is either Thomas Morstead or Deontay Harris. Deontay Harris had a great game.
Trey Hendrickson was awesome.
Oh, yeah, also agreed. But Deontay Harris, he
Taysom
came up with
Hill.
a couple of Deontay Harris came up with a couple of great returns when the Saints really needed it.
They had a penalty that killed one of them too. I mean,
Harris had the 50-yard catch too on the Taysom pass.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so tough. I mean, I want to say Payton got out coached, and he did, but he figured that shit out on the fly. Like at the end of the game, their offense was really moving well, and I think like if they'd have won the toss, I think there's a good chance they go down and score. Like the Saints had finally figured out how to crack that Minnesota thing, and the way to crack it was they ran quarterback power with Taysom, but I mean, I think they finally figured it out, and so even though I want to blame Payton for being out coached at the beginning, he fixed it on the fly.
But yeah, speaking of coaches, I mean that's the thing that kills me is when you get to the playoffs, the margins are tighter, points are harder to come by. Coaches, they come up with great plans, and Zimmer is a great coach, and he really did come in with a great plan, and I thought Sean Payton adjusted pretty well. The Saints got it going offensively in the fourth quarter, and they did what they needed to get the game to overtime. And they never got a chance in overtime, so we'll never know what they could have done offensively at that stage of the game. But I just feel like LaFleur going into Green Bay, a young coach that hasn't had that experience. I feel like Sean Payton would have run circles around him. I really do.
Yeah, and I mean, people in the chat room like it took too long. I get it, but it's hard for as a team. You work on the plan, you know, uh, all week long, and you feel good about it. And the Saints went into halftime. It was only 13-10, so I'm not necessarily sure that they were like, we got to chuck it all out the window. And also, a thing that killed the Saints is
they only had 21 plays in the first half.
Yeah, they only had 21.
It's hard to really know what's working versus not when you've had that few plays.
And Dave, one of the things that I felt like we went back to in this game was, you remember, especially when they had Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback, and even early on with Brees, I think you had mentioned in the podcast where, and that was part of you wanting to run Latavius Murray more, is we were like, they can't get in third and long. This offense is just not built for it. If it's more than 3rd and 6, they're screwed. And I felt like this game reverted back to that, where the last month of the year we kind of got in that sort of, I don't know the word for it, but we got into that mode of, it doesn't, 3rd and 8 doesn't matter, 3rd and 10, whatever, we pick it up, it doesn't matter. And this game, it was back to that, and it just took Sean Payton a long time to figure that out, that he had to grind out yards on 1st and 2nd down.
Well, I mean, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, huh?
No, you can't, unfortunately. I mean,
the thing I will say that we have to credit the Vikings. I mean, they're well coached. I know a lot of people want to say that, that team's garbage, Kirk Cousins awful, but we know that Kirk Cousins is a different player when Dalvin Cook is there, and when he's playing well. And Dalvin Cook, especially in the first half, my God, man, he was awesome.
Kirk Cousins,
give the Saints credit. I thought in the fourth quarter, the Saints defense gave the team a chance to win because they were able to stop Dalvin Cook and they were able to get off the field. So give the Saints defense some credit too, although they had a couple dubious holding penalties that helped them out. But, I think the Vikings are a good football team. And I said going into this game, this wasn't going to be easy. I knew, I think my score prediction was 34-31. And I said, this isn't going to be comfortable. The Vikings are good. The margins are going to be tight. What I didn't expect was Brees to turn the ball over twice. What I didn't expect is Armstead and Pete and Ramczyk to get their ass kicked. What I didn't expect was Lutz to miss a field goal. It's just the Saints did not play up to their identity today. And I said this on the reaction show earlier that Ralph and I did, but it's not enough for Trey Hendrickson, Taysom Hill, and Deontay Harris to show up. Those can't be the 3 guys that are carrying you. It has to be Lattimore, played like shit. Brees, played like shit. Teron Armstead, didn't live up to what we're used to seeing with him. Ramczyk, not living up to his level. Will Lutz, your all-pro, Pro Bowl kicker, misses a 42-yard field goal. I mean, the Cam Jordan, he has a sack, but, Cam Jordan, I think they did a good job of limiting him too. So, you
they
got
were
a lot
running
of
at him a
there,
bunch
and
too.
Those are horses. And
they were running at him a bunch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Dave, to me, and I said this last week, I said just don't lose at home, because losing at home when walking out of the stadium is just misery, and it just puts a shit cap on your season that a road playoff loss does not. So how do you feel about this season now that it's done?
It was a great season. It was so fun. It sucks that this is the way it ended. Obviously we're comparing it to the last 2 years, and we don't know what's going to happen next year, but I think 20 years from now, when we look back, I think that these last 3 years are going to be grouped together.
Yeah.
They're going to be remembered together as the 3 straight years of just ridiculous, Andrew said it earlier, just ridiculous playoff exits.
Fair to say underachieving?
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, I
and
saw
it's just
somebody.
frustrating. You're talking about, I'm sure that you guys saw this. The Saints are the first 13-3 team to ever lose in the wild card round of the playoffs. I mean, basically what that means is the Saints are the best team in NFL history to ever lose in the first round of the playoffs. That's what that says to me.
It is.
And
Yeah, it's true.
that's what's most disappointing, I think. And you know, it's the question is, I saw on Twitter, the question is this better or worse than, or we talked about it earlier, is it better or worse, to go out this way than with a no call? And I think
Better.
this is, see, you say better, and I think this is worse. This is like, you have a good team, and your team
Yeah.
just doesn't fucking show up on the day they're supposed to show up. It's not like somebody else takes it away from you, but you can make it. It's just.
I
But I
think it
guess
was.
it's recency
I mean,
bias because
I
I'm
think
drafted
they
in
were
football, I think
outplayed though. They were outplayed.
they
The
were
Vikings.
outplayed.
The
They were not
Vikings
the best.
deserved to win that game.
They did. The Saints made too many mistakes, and they did not do all the right things, and they did not do enough of the right things.
And the Vikings played well.
Yeah, they did, I guess.
The
I don't know.
defense did. Kirk Cousins was kind of. He wasn't. He made a great throw at the end. He had a lot of throws that he missed. Dudes were open, or even when he hit guys, like they're like diving and sliding. Like Kirk Cousins from the pocket is just like if he's not running play action.
You know what Kirk Cousins looked like today? He looked like the Teddy Bridgewater that went 5-0 with the Saints.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's what. You're exactly right. That's what
And
he
you know
looked
what he
like.
didn't do? He didn't turn the ball over.
Yeah. Well,
There you go.
he had a couple of dicey throws that could have been picked.
Good enough.
No, you're right. I mean, these playoff losses. The thing that is so that makes me so sad and is I'm 100% sure now that the decline is going to begin. Now, it may not be from 13 wins to 6. And I'm stunned. I mean, it was stunning that they managed to go 13-3 and 13-3 again back to back. It's only the third team to do it since 2000, I think only like the 10th in NFL history. But now the offseason comes. Von Bell, Onyemata. We talked about what they may or may not do with Kamara. Pete. I mean, this
All three
team.
quarterbacks.
All 3 quarterbacks. Although I think the way I heard Brees talking, I think Brees is coming back.
Yeah,
And I
I think so too. Yeah.
and I think Teddy Bridgewater may come back because if you look, like, where's Teddy Bridgewater going to go? Like, there's not many places for him to land if Tampa stays with Winston and Denver's got Drew Lock and Cincinnati's going to draft Burrow. Chicago's staying with Mitch Trubisky another year. Although, San Diego may get rid of Phillip Rivers. You know, so we'll see. But I think there's a good chance that both of them comes back though. Although I did see that Chris Collinsworth thinks that Tom Brady is going to go to the Chargers because the Chargers are going to pay him a ridiculous amount of money because they need to sell tickets. And New England wants to move on. If New England would move on from Brady, I would bet you Bridgewater would be very high on their list as like a placeholder till they figure out what they want to do. But anyway, it's just that just makes me sad because I know that the decline is going to start. And they won 37
I don't know
games.
if I agree. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, you might be right, but maybe they'll go 14-2 next year. Every year is different, and
Yeah.
we'll see. But they still play in the NFC South, so somebody's got to ascend above them. And Carolina, it's going to be a brave new world in Carolina. We don't know who their quarterback's going to be. We don't know who their coach is going to be. So that's going to be a full rebuild. To me, Tampa is 8-8 or worse in perpetuity until they get rid of Jameis Winston. So that is what it is. And then Atlanta, Atlanta's maybe who you would say is the most likely to bounce back. At least they have stability at coach. But if the GM's the problem and he's not making good draft picks, and they're not making good decisions from a personnel standpoint, then that's going to come back to bite him again. So I look at this division, and I regardless of what happens in the offseason, even if Brees were to retire, I would still say it's there for the taking.
War says the Saints are going to go 14-2 and figure out a way not to get a bye. No, I think that's true. I mean, that's fair. I mean, the thing is with Atlanta is they have convinced themselves because of what happened in 2016 and 2017 that their defense is actually good, and it's never actually been good. It just plays good for these stretches of time, and they convince themselves that if they just stay healthy, it'll be good, but it's never good and it's never healthy, and I think they've done it to themselves again. And I think they're going to be right back where they are at 7-9. So the Saints may backslide, but if they can get good health, and they had some bad breaks with health this year, Dave, with different guys. But if they can be healthy, next year they could go, maybe they could go 11-5, but you get a bye like Atlanta did in 2016, or you go fucking 10-6 like the Saints did in 2006, and you get a bye. So I don't think it's going to be catastrophe, but I just think this group, sort of Dave, as we know them, they're going to start to leave, and it's not. They're definitely the team is going to look very different in 2020 than it has the last 3 years. Is that fair?
And to me, that just says that the staff, the scouting department, has to keep nailing these picks. They just have to keep doing a good job of doing their research, getting guys like Hendrickson in the third round, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was a great pick. Keep making picks like that.
That's exactly where I was going. If the Saints can continue to draft as well as they've been drafting, then they're always going to be fine. They will never not be fine. If you can always draft 3 to 4 players that are going to be able to contribute on a significant basis, you're going to be okay.
And maybe find a Granderson in the undrafted free agency period.
Yeah,
go ahead, Dave. Say it.
A little Jordan Humphrey, or
Well, here's the thing.
He's really done a lot.
And look, we don't.
He had a great game today.
Who may come along in his sophomore year and ignite the NFL.
Yeah, people in the chat room are telling me to go screw myself. We're not declining anything, which I like. But War says it's supposed to be a deep wide receiver draft. The Saints, as we mentioned, with Ginn being washed and Traquan Smith being MIA and different guys. He had a big drop today that would have helped things. So they can do that. But I guess my point is, and we'll talk about this in the offseason, but I want to get your thoughts, you guys' initial thoughts, and I'll start with you, Dave. I want you to answer as well, Andrew. Basically, since 2017, when they had the greatest draft in Saints history, and they pulled out of the 7-9 sadness loop. Basically, since then, Dave, we've been in this mode of it's YOLO, and you need to get the second ring. No matter what it takes. If you want to spend $1 billion in free agency, if you want to trade picks, we don't care. YOLO, right? And it's been that way for 3 years. And they tried it with Marcus Davenport, and they haven't really gone crazy in free agency, but they've done some stuff. Do you consider them still in the YOLO window?
See, so my hesitation here is the quarterback position. Obviously, like if Drew can play another year at a high enough level, like he did this year, then yes, I say you go YOLO. But if you're going to start rolling with Bridgewater, you don't necessarily know whether Bridgewater is going to be able to carry an entire team. You're going to need more pieces. You're going to need more help at all other positions. So I think everything revolves around your Drew Brees situation. I'm rewatching the game right now, by the way, on NFL Network, and Taysom just busted out that long run down the sidelines. That was
that was awesome.
It was beautiful.
Every time he touched the ball, man, it felt like something was happening.
Yeah. But
to answer, I mean, they've gone 13-3 the last 2 years, Ralph. So why wouldn't they go YOLO? I think there's ultimate confidence right now that whoever they draft, they're going to help the team. Whoever they've drafted in the past, they're going to ascend and get better. So whether it's Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, he's going to make a big leap. We've seen Von Bell make a big leap. So maybe Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in year 2 is going to make a big leap. And maybe Lattimore is going to have a transformation this offseason and be a shutdown corner that we know he can be for a whole year. And maybe McCoy develops into the next Max Unger, and he's ridiculous next year, like the best center in the league. So maybe maybe Davenport finally has a fully healthy year, and he gets to double-digit sacks. So there's a bunch of guys on this team that can develop, and I think there's more draft picks to be made. And if they get another free agent like Demario Davis, where they hit there. Yeah. I think the Saints, look, they've been doing a good job. Like Jared Cook was a nice pickup. Easton seems to be okay now. And these free agents, Latavius Murray was a good pickup. So they're making good decisions. I really think the scouting and personnel department have done as good of a job as ever, just in terms of finding talent. And they haven't had the most resources, by the way. They haven't had top 10 draft picks. They haven't had the amount of money to dump into a player like they did with Jairus Byrd. They've had to be more selective. They've had to be smarter about their approach, but they've been hitting on these guys. And so I think there's enough of a foundation here with Cam Jordan and Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara and Drew Brees. Maybe some of these guys leave, but I think there's enough of a foundation there that if you can continue to build on top of it by making smart moves, you're still going to be right there.
Dave, when Sean Payton and the staff, when they have their end of the year, not the end of the year meeting, but when they have their beginning of the off season and they're all sitting around the conference room and the conference table, and they start to talk, and they say, what do we need to do to win a Super Bowl? And Sean Payton's going to say, we need this. What is he going to say? As far as like a player or a position, not a name, but like a position. What is he going to say they need?
Well, it's Sean Payton, so he's going to say somebody on offense. And I'm going to say it's going to be like another, it's going to be another big, speedy receiver, for sure.
Andrew, what do you think?
I think Sean Payton would love to go back to. He would love to have a Colston Jimmy Graham thing again. So I think he would love to have a Thomas. I don't know, somebody else like that to go with Michael Thomas.
What do you think, Andrew?
I think I would still. I love what Jared Cook brought to this team this year, but I still think kind of getting a young tight end in the mix would be nice. Taysom Hill's been fun at tight end, but I'd love to see them kind of go after and get that kind of playmaker. But honestly, I think the offensive line's getting a little long in the tooth. I think Andres Pete's going to walk. Larry Warford's not getting any younger. Teron Armstead is banged up. And so you've got, in McCoy and Ramczyk, you've got two really good young assets. But I'll be honest, I think retooling this offensive line and adding to it with a guard and a tackle, I really think they need two young, promising players. And they don't necessarily need to be starters because you still have Armstead and you still have Warford. So you don't necessarily have to go first round, but whether it's a third round, fourth round, and then maybe you develop a guy, I think they've got to solidify that offensive line. So that's almost, they do need a playmaker, but I tell you what, man, I really think Deontay Harris is a guy that needs, I know he's small, and so that's going to be a limitation, but he needs to see more time in this offense. Taysom Hill obviously needs to see more time in this offense, maybe with a more specific role. And if Teddy does come back and Drew is back also, I wonder if Taysom Hill should be a full-time tight end, where they could still do the Wildcat stuff, but it's just like, that's the craft that he's really trying to perfect. But I think there's still some weapons here. If you let Ted Ginn walk and maybe Traquan Smith, but you get some receivers in the mix, I don't know that they necessarily need to spend a first-round pick on that. But for me, this offensive line is getting a little banged up and long in the tooth. I'd like to see them reinvest there.
Well, if they re-sign Brees, they can Loomis math it, right? I mean, Brees' cap hit this year was only 15 million, so they could like extend Brees out for like 2 more years, right? And his cap number for
Yes.
this year could be like some ridiculously low number, right? And they could just kick it down the road again. They've been kicking it down the road for like what, 5 years, right? So they could in theory kick it down the road, create a bunch of cap space. They have a decent amount already. Um, I'm with you, Andrew. Uh, I wonder if they will um, go and try to get uh, a veteran receiver like the guy AJ Green who we were for like 5 whole minutes on Twitter. I was excited and thought that the Saints had got him. But I wonder if they'll try to do that. Um, you know, and selfishly, I want them to do a bunch of shit during the free agency because it gets people to listen to this podcast, sign up for this podcast, and it allows us to do fun things like a live show at Tracy's and have more money to do cool stuff. So the more the Saints do in free agency and have crazy breaking news, and I can play this sounder, the better it is for everybody, really. Um, but I mean, I just Dave, I'm struggling to sum this up. Congratulations to Tulane, by the way, Dave, for winning a bowl game for the first back-to-back bowl games for the first time ever.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We were really excited about that. It was a good weekend. It's been a good new year so far for Tulane athletics. Not only did we win the bowl game yesterday, Tulane's men's basketball team beat Cincinnati for the first time, I think, in about 25 years. And that was also, I think, our first in-conference win, which is one more than we had last year. So things are looking up for.
Oh, you mean
for
you mean
Tulane.
that corpse, Mike? The new coach is better than that corpse, Mike Dunleavy?
Yeah. He's just a little bit better. Um, but yeah, no, that was awesome. I had a good time. I made a lot of money. I was able to work there, and Campus Connection sold at 2 events in
Nice.
Fort Worth that weekend, and then got to watch the game. And Tulane got down early, 13-0, and then scored 30 unanswered points. So
So you were in Fort Worth, scrambled home to go to the playoff game?
yeah, so I thought I talked about this last week, but so I was actually freaking out because that's why I had an extra vested interest in in the Detroit Lions try and play Green Bay game and the Seahawks Niners game, because I really wanted this. I was really pulling for the Saints to get the bye because I was worried that I knew I was going to be in Fort Worth Saturday for the Tulane bowl game, and I was worried that if the Saints had to play on Wild Card weekend this weekend, I was worried they were going to get the Saturday game, and I was going to have to miss the Saints game. And I have not missed the Saints home game since 2004. I've been to every single Saints home game, including London and the one after Katrina at Giant Stadium, the Tiger Stadium LSU games. So fortunately, it was really weird that that the NFL put AFC games on Saturday and NFC games on Sunday. They never do that. They always do one and one. So anyway, so I lucked out. So I flew home immediately after the game from Fort Worth yesterday, and I was home. By 7:30, and
Yeah.
and then went to the game today. So
Yeah.
yeah, roll wave, baby.
Roll wave, man.
And Alice, go roll wave, and also, man. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about this before the national title game, but man, LSU's gotta
LSU's
try
got to
make
win.
feel better about the Saints.
I
Yeah.
cannot handle an NFC championship getting stolen from me. The Astros losing 4 straight home World Series games. The Saints getting bounced in the playoffs again after going 13-3, and LSU losing a national championship in the Superdome. I cannot deal with that
Yeah, give us some
over
happiness,
like a
LSU,
13-month
please.
span. I can't fucking not handle that in a
Hey,
calendar
Ralph,
year.
real quick, I've got 3 quick shout outs that I want to give. And I'm sorry, a couple of these are kind of somber, but I wanted to make sure I mention these. I want to give a quick shout out to Dave Hill. His family, I know, he passed away over the holidays, and he was a huge Saints fan. I know he listened to the show, and so my condolences to his family, and wishing them all the best. I'm sorry the Saints didn't give you a little happiness today, but really appreciate the support. And also want to give a shout out to our listener, super fan Michelle. I know she's in the hospital with her fiance today, and hoping that everything's okay with him and that he has a quick recovery.
Get well. We want to
sorry,
have the wedding in Vegas.
Yeah. I know. You got to bounce back, man. We're ready to do this, so hope that goes well. And then lastly, I want to give a shout out to Steve Gleason. He is due, I think, to get a Medal of Honor in DC.
Yeah.
And what he's been able to accomplish in a freaking wheelchair while immobile is more than certainly all 3 of us put together has ever been able to accomplish for humanity. And
Speak for yourself. I'm on the morning show for Channel 4.
I mean, it's just amazing. He's an
Ralph's got
inspiration.
a bum arm, so.
Yes.
Yeah, well, true. But I mean, look, Steve Gleason was an NFL football player, for God's sakes.
Yes.
And he's doing more after his playing career while in a wheelchair with a disease. So anyway, Steve Gleason, you're the man. Much respect to you. But I just wanted to get those 3 shout outs in.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, listen, it's been amazing this year. We've had amazing fun with this podcast this year. We've grown tremendously. Look at the ratings. We are the #1 Saints podcast in the fucking world. And it's because of you people listening to this show every week. We love you guys. We did the live show, which I still can't believe that happened. Like, it was just amazing.
Yeah, that was a memory of a lifetime.
It was memory. We're going to try to do it again. We got some plans. Maybe we're going to try to do it around the draft. We'll see. But it's just been great this year. Stick with us. A lot of these Saints podcasts, the season ends, they go on hiatus. They go come on every other week, every month. They check in with you. No. We're here every week with the big show, Sunday night, Monday night, plus the daily show, $7 a month for our patrons. We are the place to be for Saints news and nonsense and jokes and ridiculous. If you love us and you just found us late in this Saints season and playoff run, stick with us. We have more fun than all the other podcasts. I don't care. We just do. We're better. We're more fun. So there you go. So it sucked today.
I just wish we could keep doing it with games.
I wish we could. Me and Andrew now have to plan.
As fans as we are. And,
me and Andrew are so sad
because it had to end like this.
Because now me and Andrew have to plan daily Saints podcasts, and we don't have games to look forward to. And last year we got games all the way through the NFC Championship, and it was just it makes our life so much easier. But we're gonna do them daily anyway. We'll figure it out. We'll do it. It'll be amazing. It'll get more and more ridiculous as me and Andrew struggle to fill content. But thanks, guys. It's been fun. Michelle, your fiance. Get well, guy. We want to have that Vegas. We want to have that wedding in Vegas. So thanks for hanging out with us, guys, tonight. Today sucked, but that's life. But we'll get through it. We'll figure out a way. Just drink some more, pass out, take a PTO tomorrow for work. So for Dave, for Kevin, for Andrew, I'm Ralph. Until next week, the bar is closed.